Welcome to the ACC Panic Room alongside Lauren Brownlow. I'm Joe Ovies. And I feel like when North Carolina beats NC State under Roy Williams, and it happens a lot, I feel like I could just take an old Panic Room and a lot of the things that we've talked about in the past about how North Carolina typically beats NC State apply in this particular game. NC State was out-rebounded by North Carolina. NC State defensively wasn't really much of a match for North Carolina, especially on the interior. And that the turnovers and lack of free throw shooting for North Carolina didn't really affect them. And that results in a North Carolina win.
Yeah, I mean, the turnovers they did have, there weren't enough of them, for NC State and the way that NC State likes to play. That was significantly cut down on from the first game, obviously, because Carolina's guards are playing way better. And then
They are.
Rebounding was certainly, Carolina did about as well in the offensive boards as they did the first time around, except for this time NC State didn't do well on the offensive boards at all. And so that definitely had an impact. And especially in the first half, it felt like Carolina got whatever it wanted on the inside, just without a lot of resistance. And I saw that Kevin Keatts apparently said that they challenged DJ Funderburk at halftime, and I could see why. I mean, Manny Bates is out there blocking everything inside on a bad ankle, and just there was no interior defensive presence for State for the first half, and they played better in the second half, and that's probably a good thing, all things considered, especially the COVID layoff and everything else. You weren't sure how fresh their legs were going to be, how they were going to look, but you can't leave that kind of a cushion for Carolina.
No, you can't. You definitely can't. Yeah, I believe the phrase that was used by Kevin Keatts to describe his attitude towards DJ Funderburk was pissed at the play. He only played 9 minutes. He picked up a couple bad fouls.
Yeah.
He was 0
He was
for 1
non-factor
from the
in the
field.
offense.
He was a complete non-factor in that game, and I think that's what led to Kevin Keatts even talking about having to play Manny Bates more than he wanted to.
Yeah.
Manny Bates not only coming off the COVID pause, but with his ankle in the Miami game, he didn't have any practice. His first full contact practice was yesterday ahead of this game. And there was a general idea that he was going to play some minutes, but not as many minutes as he ended up playing. And you mentioned the guards for North Carolina. I think that's actually, to me, the most important takeaway from this game for the Tar Heels. You expect that Armando Bacot and Day'Ron Sharp continue to emerge as this dual threat presence in the paint, right? And there's a separate conversation to be had with Garrison Brooks and how he's taken his role, and it's this emergence that's taken place that's good for the Tar Heels. But this is now 2 games in a row where Caleb Love has been very, very good. I guess the Calm app is really working now, two games in a row. This is a positive development.
Although it's funny, I mean, you don't want to nitpick a lot because, again, Roy Williams will take the points, I think, at the end of the day. And he said it after the game. He said it after the 20-point game, too. He needs to stop turning it over so much. And it's weird. Some of their turnovers some of the turnovers are insanely silly. It's not like he's turning it over because, he's trying to make a really good bullet pass or something and it just gets intercepted. No, it's dribble off a foot or something along those lines. You're just going, what are you doing? But I mean, yeah, I think if that can get cut down on, then he's gonna keep getting better and better. And we've seen that.
He had five turnovers in this game. And you don't want to see that. But for the most part, though, North Carolina trended in the right direction when it came to the turnovers. You're right. Roy Williams doesn't want to see as many as they did. I think 13 in this game. But
just
also
from Love specifically. 13
Love
I think
specifically.
he's fine with, but
13 you take, and they also had 18 assists today, too, which they're going to take that as well.
Yeah, for sure. And he was going up against Devin Daniels, and there was a little bit of back and forth action happening between those two. We know Devin Daniels likes that, and they feed off that with each other. But, I think there was a little bit of an edge to North Carolina in this game. Multiple North Carolina players afterwards were like, we shouldn't have lost the first one. We felt like we were the better team then. And I was surprised to hear that. And they were like, and we weren't going to let that happen again. And how Roy Williams felt about the way they defended in the first meeting. And for sure, they played with way more defensive intensity in this one.
Now, the other thing, too, that NC State didn't do a good job of, and this again ties into DJ Funderburk's play in the first half, North Carolina going into this contest had only led in 4 games at the half. I think the stat was they were minus 22 for the season. Going into the half. And I'm assuming that Roy Williams, we talked to Roy Williams, Gilio and I talked to Roy Williams on Friday, and we joked about the whole kumbaya and holding hands thing. So I want to give credit to Roy Williams for changing up his coaching tactics and actually holding hands and singing kumbaya in the pregame. instead of halftime this time.
Maybe he just had them all use the call map. I don't know.
Maybe that's true too. I don't know. It's a mandatory thing to use the call map before the game. I put it out there on social media. Just is Carolina back, so to speak? Because right now they are 5-1 in January, losing to Florida State. Given the way that Florida State's playing, as of this recording, Florida State is crushing Clemson. Remember when Clemson was a thing?
Boy. I'm sorry.
I know. Look, it happens. I mean, we'll get into this in a little bit, but I wanted to point out, because I think there's a larger point to be made about not really taking too much out of what we're seeing with a weird pandemic basketball season, right?
Yeah.
But I do think, though, that Carolina, despite the turnovers, which I know they want to cut down, and specifically as we talked about with Caleb Love, I mean, you go 5-1 in January after the way they started. They seem to be playing. I asked, is Carolina back? And a lot of NC State fans responded with, "No, NC State's back," so to speak, as a dismissive way. Well, NC State has had a bad 2021 so far,
yes,
and it was a very typical game that you see between North Carolina and NC State. But to me, it's North Carolina is cleaning things up when they need to. Like in the Wake Forest win, right? Wake Forest was sloppy as hell. And if they had cut down on the turnovers and things like that, maybe you find yourself in a situation where Wake Forest kind of shocks the world, right? But they didn't, and North Carolina did the little things down the stretch that they needed to do. And the same thing applies here. State tried to make it a little bit more of an interesting game there late, but at that point, North Carolina once again was taking advantage of the fact that NC State wasn't really defending in this contest, or even making the right shots. That was another thing that Kevin Keats talked about after the game, and that he was not happy with the fact that they left some 3 opportunities there. He actually wanted them to take some more 3 opportunities rather than trying to drive. So I think that there's both can be true. NC State has definitely fallen off from where we saw at the end of December. But North Carolina has certainly turned things around, and they're looking more and more like the Carolina team that people want to see.
Yeah, I think both things are true too. And I will say this, I understand the angst when it comes to State from fans, and the frustration of feeling like some things are kind of repeating over and over again. And I get it. At the same time, you've got this team coming off its second COVID pause of the year. And by the way, when you talk about these games all playing out the same, I mean, it's fair to point out that a Mark Godfrey coach team probably would have taken a 30-point L to North Carolina. You know what I mean? I'm not.
No, look, you're right.
I'm just trying to be fair to Kevin Keats and what they're trying to do at State. Yeah. I think it's clear that, and it was a problem before they went on pause too. They're not forcing turnovers the way that they need to force turnovers. No. That was against everybody. They were not forcing them as much as they needed to be forcing them. So that needs to get back to happening. But when you're coming off a COVID pause, you're probably not going to see a team pressing full court as much as, you know what I mean? So I just think let's settle down a little bit. They made it competitive. He said he liked the way they fought and competed. Yeah. They did play. That's part of what you all said that you wanted, and I don't blame you. After the Godfrey dares, we want a guy that's going to play an entertaining kind of basketball, and our team is not going to give up and it's going to play hard, and they are doing that. They just need to,
I don't get too wrapped up in the immediate reaction of what I see on social media, because it doesn't really. There's no context added to. You just want to vent, right? And I said this during the football season too. There is a tendency to get performative on social media after your team loses. Let me show you how much of a State fan I am by, bitching and moaning about my team. And you see this with other programs too. I'm just saying specifically with NC State when they lose a game. There's some performative angst that I don't think people necessarily buy.
I'm not going to call out the Duke fan that said that this was worse than the 95 Duke team, but I did see that.
Oh, and I missed that.
Yeah, and
wow,
I was
I did not see that Duke performative angst on social media there. That's fascinating.
I don't know about all that, dude.
Wow. I gotta take a knee after hearing that. What is that about? Oh. No, so on the afternoon show with me and Julia, we talked to Kevin Keats and Roy Williams on Friday. And both of them had similar thoughts on how all of this sucks. I'm paraphrasing here. They didn't say sucks, but that's basically what they were getting at. It sucks that the players don't come out to 17,000 people all fired up, right? It sucks that they enter these games and they're like glorified practices because of no ambient noise, no crowds, nobody feeding off of a big shot and the crowd going nuts and things like that. I think we are not giving enough credence to the fact that college-aged players have a typical creature of habit expectation of playing in front of crowds and trying to create your own energy or whatever it is can be weird, okay? And that's why I don't get. And then then there's the other things too. We mentioned NC State's COVID pause. North Carolina's been lucky enough to not deal with this.
I think can be really
the continuity right now in this college basketball season. Like, good luck with that. I mean, even Duke, right? Duke's had they got sent home. They canceled their non-conference games. They've had any number. They missed their coach for a little bit of time. Like, if we're sitting here trying to make larger, sweeping generalizations of a program based on the season,
I'm just not
cool. Like, if that's what you want to do, knock yourself out. I'm just going to chalk this up to like everything else that we've been dealing with right now. Like, it's just all part of the pandemic. It is what it is. So relax, make yourself a ranch water, and just chill out.
It feels like somehow less accurate to do that in college basketball, even in then college football, because of just how differently this season has played out so far. Really, I mean, and I do think that stuff's important. And you saw State's freshmen at the beginning of the year; they got to play against some bad teams and get some confidence, and then they hit the wall when they got into ACC play. North Carolina's freshmen, they had, I don't know if we call it the benefit, but they did have the benefit in that sense of like getting to hit the wall earlier, because they kind of played a tougher schedule out of the gate, and they've had to kind of get their confidence back little by little here, because they didn't have the luxury of having a bunch of opponents stacked up that they could just do whatever they wanted against. And I think State's freshmen will be fine based on what we saw from them earlier. I think Carolina's obviously look like they're fine right now, except for Walker Kessler, bless his heart. Oh my! That second free throw attempt of when he missed two and it barely grazed the rim, I was like, oh my dude, oh no.
All right, well,
yeah.
We'll check in tomorrow morning, because I know Duke's playing Louisville right now. There's some other ACC action going on as well, but it's Saturday. It's getting close to 5 o'clock. I'm gonna make myself some tequila, ranch water. Just live the life on a Saturday night, Brownlow.
What?
What? Tequila, Topo Chico, and lime. Have you not tried that yet?
No.
Oh, you gotta try that.
I'm a tequila and Sprite Zero.
No, Lauren. You're gonna have to try the ranch water. It's like it's a Texas thing, and we actually did a 919 Beer podcast about that, and it's a loose, fun conversation on that 919 Beer podcast. But yeah, try that. Get your best white tequila blanco. Get some Topo Chico, the basic one, and lime to taste, and you're good to go.
I don't love the sound of that. I did try tequila and White Claw recently, but it doesn't quite. It's too much. It was too much.
Tequila and White Claw?
Well, Julio was the one who exposed us to the mixing of the White Claw and
no, that was with the Natter days.
Oh, but it's
that was Natter days and Tito's. That was not tequila.
I'm just saying, like,
because Tito's, you could blend Tito's into anything. It doesn't taste like anything.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the ACC Panic Room. We'll see y'all later.